It started with rain, soft at first, then steady and cold, drumming on the glass of the gallery on Crown Street. I pressed my back into the red brick outside, portfolio clutched tight, water seeping into the threads of my cheap blazer. The air smelled of wet pavement and old eucalyptus. Inside, harsh fluorescent light gleamed on polished floors. Through the door, I heard voices bouncing off the high, white walls and the scrape of someone dragging an easel. I felt their impatience drift through the glass. The curators rolling trolleys jammed with art, volunteers taping up placards beneath landscapes of Bondi, cityscapes in acrylic blues and golds. When my turn finally came, Sue, the director, barely met my eyes. She motioned to the chairs lined for rejects and called, "Next," sharp as chalk scratching slate. I waited half an hour on hard plastic, blinking rain off my eyelashes. My own ghost stared back from the black glass window. When Sue beckoned, she didn't even sit, just flicked through the handful of stills from my short doco, frames of oyster boats on Botany Bay, the fishermen hunched over, fingers raw from salt and cold. She squinted at my label. "J. Cadman," she mangled the J. "You know this isn't really what we're after. If you want to submit photographs, they should be." Her hands fluttered vague. "People like to see nice things, Jamie. Yours are so bleak, they're not even photographs really. Next time maybe paint a beach." A couple artists' heads pressed together, cocked eyebrows at the black and white shot of old Sam Wu with his nets. "Docos. Is that art?" one muttered. Sue pushed the stills back to me, quick like the prince strung her. "Sorry, not this year." She turned to the next hopeful. I hugged my portfolio, winding back through wet city streets, under the yellow glow of shopfronts, past bars spilling out heat and laughter, couples beneath umbrellas. By the time I reached Redfern Station, I was drenched, the city's chill sharp and steady around me. At home, my mother sat at the kitchen table tapping her mug. "Well," her tone was half hopeful, half bracing. My father flicked through his phone, not looking up. I set the case by the door, water dripping from my cuffs. Didn't get in. Mum let out a sigh, something close to a laugh. "Told you, all that time spent on your, what do you call them? Those little films of yours. They're documentaries, it's about the process." "Oh, Jamie, don't start." She looked at the fridge as if my films might be hidden behind the magnets. "If you want to be a cameraman, you do what you need. But Mrs. Dejani says you're still doing those movies. People wonder, you know." I bit my tongue. Dad kept scrolling, nodding, polite but absent. "Maybe it's time for something proper, mate." Later from my room, I heard their voices muffled but clear. "Never leaves that desk, not a real job, he'll grow out of it. Won't amount to much this way." The shame clung to me, heavy as my rain-wet socks. I lay back on my bed, watching a web of cracks on the ceiling split and shift into dead ends. I kept working. For the next year, I took odd jobs editing wedding tapes, filmed sandwich shop ads, anything that paid, no matter how soul-numbing. I borrowed a battered Canon from an old uni mate whose confidence didn't match his generosity. "Just bring it back when you quit," he joked. Some nights I caught old documentaries rerun on TV, fishers on the Thames, coal miners in Newcastle, the world's working hands moving across flickering frames. I'd watch until the screen burned my eyes, pretending I was behind the lens, breathing in those stories. But when morning came, Sue's voice and their laughter haunted me. "Is that art?" My cousin Callum bought a car that year, fresh out of his apprenticeship. At Christmas, his mates joked through the garage, beer in hand. When I mentioned I was filming oyster boats again, they snickered. "On your way to Cannes, are you?" Callum grinned. "Need a proper camera for that." It strung deep. Every family event was an update on my lack of progress. At Nana's birthday, someone always asked, "Got a proper job yet, Jamie?" My aunt, proud of her son's office gig, piped up, "You should help Aaron with his LinkedIn." Every Jamie the filmmaker joke drew an extra laugh, another layer between me and them. I stopped talking about my work at home. When my first project, Bay's End, was picked for a tiny festival in Tamworth, I didn't mention it. The screening happened in a school gym, ancient projector rattling at the back, the crowd munching sausage rolls. I sat alone and listened to forced applause. A kid came up afterwards. "Photos were good, mister, kinda sad." Back in Sydney, the grind sharpened me. Weddings, real estate ads. But job by job, I learned to capture moments, edit tight, frame the truth in dull light. My own films, documentaries about dying trades, street poets, refugee cooks, grew longer, more layered. Eventually, I stopped craving anyone's blessing. I just hunted stories, piecing them together in the midnight hush of my flat, headphones clamped tight, screen light flickering on empty walls. Evening, after Mum went to bed, I'd make instant noodles and stare into the backyard at the slick, shiny grass. I'd do the sums, a year's rent mounting debt, the ache of getting nowhere slow. But giving up felt even worse, like a gnawing hunger in my gut. Then one night everything shifted. An email arrived, a student group wanted to buy some of my footage. A few days later, a producer at the ABC reached out. He'd seen my doco on refugees online. Was I available to assist on a series about city life? The pay was crumbs, but it was real work. Mum's reaction was habitual. Is it a real job with super? It's something, I offered. She shrugged, filling the kettle. Just promise me you'll try more than oyster boats. The job changed me. At the ABC, I rode in battered vans with old hands, scouted for interviews in rain-soaked suburbs, lugged sound gear, cut footage till my back screamed. Slowly, they trusted me, let me direct a short about Chinatown's poets, then a portrait of a Vietnamese baker who'd lost everything after a flood. Bit by bit, Sydney's bones opened to me, the stories missed by others, hidden in laneways and small kitchens. A slice of belonging crept in. My first short aired one winter. The community centre screened it, 50 people sharing lukewarm pizza in fold-out chairs. My name drifted up in the credits, white neat. I slipped out for air, nerves burning. It felt both enormous and utterly small. Recognition took its time. Awards passed me by. Budgets vanished, then returned in fits and starts. I taught video to kids more interested in TikTok than documentaries. Some months I slept on spare couches to avoid rent. Years blurred together, my hair silvered at the edges. I learned to keep my victories to myself. At home, no one asked. My work became something skirted around the dinner table, like a bad topic in politics. Then one summer, the breakthrough landed. The ABC started a new series on memory and belonging, with an episode to be pitched overseas. After years digging into my city, I got to direct. We shot for months, old Italian barbers, women's shelters, the last bookshop in the station. The series was called Invisible Sydney, and I poured every hard-won lesson and stumble into it. Edit by edit, take by take, I carved the city's quiet spaces onto film. When DocuWave Festival in Berlin picked it up and SBS aired it worldwide, it felt like the sky cracked open. Ads popped up at the airport, papers ran blurbs about me, and a thin box set bearing James Cadman, director, arrived in the mail. I held the proof in my hands for a long time, tracing the letters, not trusting what I saw. I rang Leo, my oldest friend. "Mate, that's massive," he whooped, then was instantly serious. "You'll tell your folks, right? Time for them to see it." I hesitated. I'd seen the art gallery on Crown plenty since that night, but always kept my distance. The memory of that first rejection stayed cold in my chest, but the ABC wanted to close the series with a local screening at Carriageworks, complete with Q&A. Leo all but forced me to invite my family. "Let them see you win, don't shrink away now." My parents said yes, finally, half apologetic. "We'll never understand half of it, but we're coming." The night of the screening, Carriageworks buzzed with noise, students, film folk, old teachers, MPs. The banners outside glowed with stills from my film, wrinkled hands working dough, neon light on midnight tailors, each subject real as breath. My hands shook as I put on my badge. My family, mum, dad, aunts, uncles, even grinning Callum, arrived together. They settled in reserved seats, faces carefully blank. The house filled, the host called me a son of Redfern. The first shot swept over the city, dusk light on sandstone. In the dark, I heard one suppressed gasp, my aunt, maybe my father. The film played, each story unfolding, the Cambodian cook, the battered bookshop owner, hope shot through struggle on the giant screen. When the credits rolled, I saw my name clear, bold, and the applause echoed, soft but persistent, swelling around me. Even at the back, critics stood. Near the exit, Sue, the gallery director, waited, hair now grey and clipped. She saw me, eyes apologetic. "James, that was something special. You should have sent us this back then." Her words were awkward, thick. I shook her hand. Old scores felt unimportant. Time had shifted everything. The real moment came in the crowded lobby afterwards. Callum nudged Mum, tilting his head at the posters lined with reviews. "Did you know he had it in him?" Mum blinked back tears, then reached for my arm, gripping tight. Dad stood silent, then he cleared his throat, eyes locked on mine for the first time in years. "That was real, son. Never knew what you saw in those dark places, but tonight, I saw it. I'm proud." People swarmed with congratulations. Teachers, old neighbors, even cousins who once laughed now stood quiet. In every face I recognized some flicker of admiration and the odd pain of knowing they'd been wrong. After the panel, we walked out into warm night. Mum linked her arm through mine, umbrella resting between us though the rain was long gone. She squeezed my hand quietly, a pride I'd never felt before. Dad stopped to brag to strangers, grinning, repeating, "That's my son, he did that film." "You saw the bit with the baker." Back home at the old table, Mum made strong tea, eyes red. Dad hummed as he read a new article about me, the words thick but certain. Didn't get it for years, but now I see. All those little films, they meant something. Callum texted late, "Mad bro, next time do one on cars, I'll help." Afterwards, the news drifted through. My primary teacher played my film for a Year 3 class. The neighborhood paper printed my photo. Someone handed me free coffee at the cafe that once ignored me. "Saw your doco, mate, made me cry." The sting of those early years was never fully gone, rain, rejection, the ache of pressing against glass, but in the end the return home mattered most, not the billboards or the applause. What changed everything was how my family looked at me at dinner, eyes clear, eager to tell anyone who'd listen. I didn't have to hide the size of my dreams anymore. The city belonged to me just as I'd always belonged to it. If years from now I'm asked why I continued, I'll remember the cold, the laughter, the first rejection. And above all, I'll remember how slow returns are the ones that last, the patience that is another word for hope.